Are we ready?
Yep.
All right. Well, hello, Ruritan Nation. Welcome to our May 2025 Ruritan Connect. I am Jeff Roadcap from the Rockingham District. Joining our panel are my good friends and national directors John Berry and Dave Winget, both from the Ohio District.
Hi.
Today, we're going to talk about something that every Ruritan club, zone, and district cares about, and that is growth. If you're here, then you obviously care about Ruritan, and most importantly, the future of the communities within your districts. Growth is not something that just happens. We must develop a plan. We must execute that plan. We must follow up and then refine the plan continuously. The Ohio District did just that. They developed and executed a growth plan, which we will hear about today. By the end of the session, you should have a better understanding of how to build a growth plan for your district. In fact, it's so easy that even a caveman can do it. So speaking of a caveman, John, could you start us off? Wait, what are you wearing? Can you tell us what you're...
I am wearing a lei that was given to me by past national president Rick Poff. He was the national president in 1927, I think. And this is Galloping Toward Growth. We are going to celebrate our 2026 National Convention in Lexington, Kentucky. And as we gallop toward there, we are galloping toward growth as well and celebrating that we will be having our national convention in Lexington. So that's the course. And he said, you got to wear this wherever you go. So I'm on Ruritan business, so I'm wearing my lei.
Well, that's great. Thanks for doing that. That was kind of a surprise for us when you showed up. So can you tell us what growth means to you when it comes to clubs in your district?
To me, growth is positive gain. And there are several aspects of that we need to make sure. We used to call the growth committee the growth retention committee. And retention is a big part of the whole deal because it's net. We're trying to work for building our clubs. And if we lose members along the way, then it's that much harder to actually increase our numbers. While we're doing that, we need to make sure that we treat one another with dignity and respect. I know all clubs have their share of headbutting, if you will. People have differing thoughts and ideas, and that's fine. That makes us a solid organization. But along the way, we need to make sure that we follow the core values of Ruritan of goodwill, fellowship, and community service. And that has got to include treating one another well. Of course, we want to grow. We want to reach out to service more communities. If we think about the over 800 clubs in Ruritan National, we need to make sure that other communities that are not currently being served. This is about service. The community service part is so important. And we need to make sure that we're wanting to grow Ruritan because we're wanting to help more people in more communities. That, to me, is the bottom line. So as we do that, there are no limits. We should be inviting people, a cross section of people in our communities, men, women, different ethnicities, different races, youth, be inclusive. That's really important. So having positive numbers at the end of each month, at the end of each year, is what growth means to me.
Right. Thanks, John. Appreciate that. Dave, I know the Ohio District created a growth plan. What made you all decide to do that?
It's here. It's on.
I don't know.
Jeff, Jeff, before we get started, did you want to mention about muting and so forth to everybody
You're
else?
right. Yeah. Before we get started, could everyone on the call, please make sure your microphones are muted. We don't need your images to come through. And we will have question session at the end. So thanks. I forgot to do that at the beginning.
Okay, yeah. At the National Convention year before last, we were challenged by the national president, one of them, to develop a growth plan, that each district develop a growth plan. And so when I came back, there's 3 of us in the district that meet on a regular occasion, and that would be John as the national director, myself, I was the Ohio governor at the time, and our lieutenant governor. And we sat down and we kind of said, yeah, that would be a good idea. It kind of makes sense to do that. And we agreed to present it to the Ohio District Cabinet to get their buy-in.
So once you did, I brought it to the cabinet, what were the next steps that you took?
Okay. Yeah. At that point, we discussed it with the cabinet in general. The cabinet felt it was a good idea. So we did a little brainstorming session about where we thought the opportunities in Ohio were and what our approach would be. And at this time, and I'll say it throughout the presentation, I don't think any 2 districts' growth plans should be the same. I mean, all the districts are different, and we were interested in our particular district what we thought was important. And so one of the first things that came out, it wasn't probably the most important thing, but we all have the 250th anniversary of the United States coming up. And we felt that was a good opportunity for Ruritan to get out in front of the public and hold a celebration within the communities, incorporate other organizations, utilize youth and youth organizations, and have things, maybe parades, picnics, dedications, and just use that exposure to help recruit new members to all of our clubs. And that was one of the things the High District thought was important. The next thing we wanted to consider new areas of growth, and where do we start a new club? And so we, again, some brainstorming sessions, we came up with 4 areas within Ohio that we thought would make sense or were ripe. Now, backing up just a minute, we did have an objective, and our initial objective, and I apologize for not starting here, is dynamic, which means can change or adjust over time, but maybe used year after year, not having to reinvent the wheel. So this requires input and approval from the Ohio District Cabinet. That was the objective we had established. And the scope of our growth, we felt that Ohio District is currently located in northeastern Ohio, and it's quite a big area, and we're probably 3.5 hours from one end of it to the other. So we felt there were opportunities within our existing footprint, and thought that the geographical location, there were a lot of opportunities where we already were. So that was what we thought the scope should be, and kind of as a way to get us started. So we did consider new areas. 4 came out, and then we listed areas to pursue that were once had Ruritan clubs, but for whatever reason weren't around anymore. So we came up with about 13 areas, communities that we thought would be ripe for new clubs. The next thing we considered was our existing clubs, and so we formally challenged the clubs at that time to grow all their clubs by 5%. And the goal's kind of different now, but we can modify that. And we felt zone governors were important in communicating this message after we put it out. We also thought social media was important. We felt it was a weakness of our district, and we thought we needed to develop like a district Facebook page, explore and implement Instagram, explore and implement Snapchat, and probably hire a consultant to help us do that. I'm going to back up a minute, and I'm a member of the communications committee, and we did have a consultant attend one of our meetings, and she thought, she used the term that social media can bridge the gap between generations. And after a discussion, she felt using Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram would be the best vehicles for us, and highly recommend that we did short YouTube videos. And there are some YouTube videos on the national website, not developed by the communications committee, but Sarah and others had posted them. So that kind of, we felt, at least for Ohio, but I would say other areas, social media is very important, and we felt we were lacking in that area, and that's an area to work on. And then tracking and measuring were things that we do, and we discuss the plan at our cabinet meetings 3 times a year now. So that's the gist of it. I would say it's not a long, complicated plan. It's about a page and a quarter, but it's a start, and it gives us a roadmap and kind of a path to follow as we try to grow the Ohio district.
Probably really important with cabinet members change to have something to work off of. Did you have any challenges that you encountered, and how'd you overcome them?
I would say challenges, no. I mean, there was some discussion, but there wasn't one person in the room, and John was there, but that disagreed with number one, wanting to grow, and number two, that the growth plan probably made sense. And so we had a pretty good buy-in, though good, healthy discussion during the cabinet meeting. And we had put up some poster board, and we had lots and lots of ideas, and we had to rank order what we thought were the most important for us to get started on. So
I think, I think that's a great idea to, at least you got people talking and coming up with ideas, brainstorming. You don't have just one person trying to figure this out. There's so many different ways of doing it.
yeah, I would
Now-
go as far as to say I was not going to do it in a closet. And if John and Charlie, in our initial discussion, didn't agree, but they clearly did, and if the cabinet would have put up quite a bit of resistance, I'm not sure we would have moved forward, because I don't think we're going to be successful without significant buy-in by the officers and zone governors. So yeah.
So speaking of the zone governors, did they take ownership in helping with this plan and executing it?
Some did, some didn't. That's an honest answer. Yeah, some really did, and others were slower. So yeah, it was kind of a mix, but we got some good people, paddling the ship. So
Right. Yeah. Great. How did you measure how effective or not this plan is working? I know it's pretty new. What kind of measures did you have in place?
pretty simple, just growth of the district, and we looked at the different clubs and who was growing, who wasn't. We looked at clubs that needed some visits, ones especially under charter membership. John and Charlie and myself, we made sure to to visit them and try to encourage zone governors to visit. And for the most part they did. Yeah.
Is this impacted or how did it affect any of the Ruritan clubs? Any new clubs there?
No new clubs, but what we did learn, and John, maybe you'll help me out here, talk about the Ruritans a little bit, if you would, please.
Okay, I had heard that our local Ruritan club, and just for everybody's knowledge, Dave talks about Charlie Pierce and Dave and I. We all happen to live within probably 6 miles of each other. So our school district is shared. So that gave us a special concern there. I had heard that the Ruritan club that we had been pretty much disbanded because the leader of the club had left the school system, and there actually was no club anymore. So Dave and Charlie and I got together and went to the high school and met with the guidance counselor. And when you're looking for people, please remember this: when you're looking for people for growth, find a spark plug. We need it. If you have one person that can be a spark plug, and that's what we found when we went to the local high school, a guidance counselor who is busier than busy, and busy people are the ones that get things done. We went and talked to them, talked to her. She enlisted the help of 2 other teachers because within the schools it needs to be somebody that's on the staff. Um, Routine clubs do not have to be started through the schools. It oftentimes is easier, but if you don't have somebody within the school who's willing to help, then you can go outside. It can still be started. And we went and met with her and the other 2 teachers that she enlisted for help, and they were all about it. They said there are kids that, even though it's busy as children,
Yeah, sure.
kids are super busy nowadays, but there are kids that needed to have some community service hours. National Honor Society, various groups needed to have community service hours. This was an opportunity
Enter
for
a
them.
conference ID
It
followed by
also
pound.
helps to have a place for kids who maybe aren't the most popular. And when I think about that, I think about the adult clubs. Sometimes people need to belong somewhere, and that can be the difference between them being a happy person or not. We hear a lot about teen suicides, and one of the things that I talked to the teen club at the local high school was that I'm so happy to have the jocks. I'm happy to have the cheerleaders. I'm happy to have the cool kids. But please reach out to maybe some of those kids that don't have anything, because that may be the difference in their lives. If they can be involved in something that they can see as productive, it really can make a difference. So that outreach is great. I ended up having to delete all the kids that were on the MMS from the local high school because they had all graduated, but we were able to add 33 new. And these kids are working. And Dave, I'm going to let you talk just a minute about what we've done to encourage them, to let them know that we're behind them as adult clubs in the area.
Yeah, one of the things we did was we voted in our zone, because our zone pretty much is 6 clubs within the school district. We voted to chip in. Fantastic. We voted to pay the $300 for their Build the Dollar scholarship. So we paid that, and then next year, when they get the money, with the oversight of the counselor, they will pick a Ruritan to get the scholarship. And we were kind of happy with that. The clubs all unanimously decided that they wanted to do that. And that's just one little thing we can do to support them, and I think it was very well received. Additionally, the Ohio District pays the dues for all of the Ruritan clubs, so there's some things that are done to help grow them. And at this time, we have 5 Ruritan clubs in Ohio.
And
Great.
we also have these youth, at least 3 of the clubs that I know of have enlisted the help of these youth in the teen club at our events and pay them to come and help. So that helps to build them a treasury, and that lets them feel that they're a part. Ruritan is, we support various groups. We support our veterans. We support a lot of our youth with all the scholarships that we give. And there are multiple clubs in Ohio that have rising senior programs, and they bring these kids in as juniors, and they're guaranteed a scholarship at the end of their senior year. And oh, by the way, they bring some of their friends along when they attend meetings. So that's a neat thing too. But we've got, nobody's getting any younger, and to get the next generation involved in community service is monumental. We need to make sure that we're trying to do that.
You talked about the zone governors being involved. Did they talk with their clubs and determine how they wanted to grow their clubs? Whether they want youth, they want couples, what kind of mix?
Yeah, we have quite a mix there. We have several clubs that have youth members as young as 12, and we have others that don't. But there was kind of a mix in Target. Some specifically went after younger people and were successful, and others didn't, and kind of like you would expect. Yeah, kind of a mixed bag.
Yeah, cool. Well, we've talked about your plan. Can we go ahead and see that? I know, I think Julianne was going to put that up for us so we can actually see what your plan looks like.
Sure.
I'm sharing my screen. You should be able to see it now, hopefully.
Yeah, we can. And we didn't really have a blueprint to go by, so we just kind of shot from the hip here, but we felt the objective and a scope kind of made sense for us. I think if you're going to build one, you might consider that, not required. And then the strategy portion, I can't emphasize that all districts are different, and that I think a little brainstorming session of ideas would help shape the various strategies. And ours will change, but it was basically a page and a third and something like that. And I think initially it doesn't have to be long, but as we continue to use it and update it, it may grow in length. But yeah, this is where we started.
It's like what we said earlier. It's something that needs to be looked at every year and refined, because you learn your lessons on what works, what doesn't. So, hey. Well, we talked about opening a new club. What about growing existing clubs? Can you tell us anything that you put in your plan to,
well,
as far as growing existing clubs?
Something we had done a couple years ago related to that was at our cabinet meeting, we did some brainstorming on how to get new members, and I don't have that with me right now, but we just did some brainstorming on ideas how to grow membership. And then we printed that off so that we could take it as we visited clubs. We could share that with them and some of the suggestions on what various clubs did, and they might see something there that they felt would work for them. So that's one thing that comes to mind. Anything else, John? maybe he's not there.
He's
I
there.
don't know.
John, did you hear?
No, I
Did you
did
have
not.
something to add to
Sorry.
that?
Do you have anything to add, John, on
We,
growing clubs?
We talked about, we did a bit of changing on zone governors. And this was something that Dave and I had talked quite extensively about. Sometimes we get stale in our plan, and we need to be changing. It's a moving target. What we're doing is a moving target, and we decided that it was important to us to make sure that we had the right people in the right places. And zone governors, to me, which was my favorite job. I've gone from club member to national director, and my most favorite job was zone governor. And you can have quite an impact just learning about each club within the zone. And it's fun still to go for me to clubs within our zone, and everybody knows me and I know everybody, and it's a cool thing. But to make sure that we have some movers and shakers is really important. And we looked at some of our zones. There were some that didn't have maybe a backup, didn't have the assistant governor. And we felt that was really important because we're only one heartbeat away from being out of luck for having leadership within a zone. So we looked at all of the zones together, decided on some of the people that we thought really would be key for that. And then we decided at our, in November, Ohio has two conventions a year. We have a spring banquet where it is more of a formal type, it's a party, it's a celebration. And then in the fall, in November, once we have new officers elected, then people come in and we train everybody every officer that is there. So we have developed training for the zone governors and assistant governors to help encourage them. Nobody wants to have to reinvent the wheel or invent the wheel, I guess. They don't want to feel dumb about not knowing what to do. So we try to equip them as much as we can with the information on what they should be doing and where we go from here. And we want to consider having meetings with those zone governors and assistants throughout the Ohio district. And I'd like to do that in Upper West Virginia, which I serve as well, and get everybody on board to keep us actually galloping toward growth. And again, I can't say enough. We do this. Why? We do this because we want to serve more communities. That's, to me, that is my heartfelt desire, is to help people. Without Ruritan, we think about all the things that we do in our communities. What about communities where there aren't Ruritan clubs? Who helps those communities? So that's really important to do. So we need to constantly be on the lookout for that. And everybody wants to help everybody. It just that's how we're wired. So I think it's a pretty easy sell, but equipping the folks that are in those leadership roles with the proper tools to be able to know how to do what it is that we're encouraging is equally important.
Jeff, you're muted, I think.
Yep.
I am muted. I apologize. I said, you're right. You mentioned galloping towards growth, and it kind of leads another question here. So how's Ohio been doing? Has anyone met the 5% challenge yet this year?
We have, Dave, you want to go?
No, go.
We have one club. We had our cabinet meeting in March, and the host club this year so far has gone from 16 to 25 members. And I applauded them for the growth that they've done. And my question was, how have you done that? And the simple answer is we ask people. But a little bit more in depth is they have helped other clubs along the way. Some clubs actually have taken in new members from other clubs. They're members of a couple clubs. But when people see what we're doing and we have our fundraisers and maybe ask people who aren't Ruritan members yet if they might be willing to give us an hour or two, whatever the case may be. Um, they see the benefit of what we're doing, and then to advertise. And I'd like to go back just a little bit too. Dave did it a couple times, so I need to do it too. Um, how do we get the word out there for what it is we're doing? And when I was first governor of Ohio in 2018, I got all fired up about a Facebook or a web page. And web pages are fine. I don't discount them at all. They're a good tool, but you have to intentionally log on to a web page to be able to learn about a club. And most people don't do that. That's where the other parts of social media come into play. We can share for free, and there is definitely cost to a website. It's probably easier, I think, to use Facebook, Instagram, X, whatever it may be. Think about the best fit for your areas. And again, we are all different, but those pictures, those events that we're doing, we think about the magazine and we all send pictures in to the magazine. Who sees those pictures? Other Ruritan members. We're not getting out to the general public, whereas these other social media platforms can be shared and we can have those events shared to people who are not Ruritan members and maybe garner some interest for them to say, that's pretty cool. I'd like to be a part of that. What these folks are doing is worthwhile.
We got to make sure we're showing them how much fun we do have. Hopefully, we are having fun. We must be. We wouldn't be here. I know you talked a little bit earlier about social media, Dave. Anything else you wanted to add to that?
Not really. For the Ohio district, that's clearly something to work on for us. And a couple things you could do. You might you might be able to find a consultant. But if you listen to what John said, you got the Ruritan groups, and who better to help you with a something on a computer, Facebook or whatnot, than a high schooler. And then, they may even like you and want to join. But I think just because you don't know yourself, get some help. And we actually had one of our members bring their daughter to our communication team meeting and coach us on Facebook and social media. So get some resources if you don't have them. Yeah.
Great. Well, I'd like to add something too. We talked about the different media outlet, but face-to-face is really important. I know here in the Rockingham district, they created a brochure and they handed it out at several of the county fairs. And approximately 20 people had signed a wanting more information sheet. And so we gave that information to the clubs that live near these folks and they contacted them. And we've got at least 10 new members in the district from doing just that.
That's
And most of
excellent.
the fairs might let you set up without a fee. But having the information and having your little elevator speech and more information about what you're doing, that face-to-face is really important.
Great point.
So,
Great point.
so
And
what
the
kind of,
elevator,
But
I'm sorry, John.
Jeff, I may be mistaken, but when you ask your wife to marry you, I kind of doubt that you did it on Facebook or Instagram. It probably was face to face.
No, but there was ice cream involved. You'll have to ask her about that sometime.
Yeah.
I knew there had to be a bribe.
I didn't look at it that way, but you might be on to something.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of lays into my next question. What kind of recognition or incentives are in place for the clubs within your district?
Don, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, there are several, and I've heard from several. Julianne shared some from her district. I know that in the Ohio district, we decided that for every person who brings in a new member, we will have a drawing at the end of the year, and the club name, not the individual's name, but the club name will go into a jar. For every member that you bring in, you'll get one entry into this jar to be drawn. And of course, the more members that you get, the more opportunities that you have to win a $500 prize for your club. Other clubs have come up with programs that they will pay for the national convention, the registration, and 2 night stay. Another prize is registration for 2 days. And there's all kind of things that we can do to incentivize people. Unfortunately, a lot of times people say, "What's in it for me?" Hopefully, we have the heart, because what's in it for me is being able to help people who need. If you've ever been part of, and I'm sure you all have, I'm sure everybody on this show to this evening has been a part of something where a youth has received a scholarship, a family didn't have enough money maybe to pay their fuel bill or electric bill. It's really a nice feeling to be able to know that you made a difference in somebody's life. And that is a reward. We don't get often very many or any thank yous, but we don't do it for those. We do it because we know that that's what God would have us to do. And that's important. We are our brother's keeper and sisters and whatever, but it's important to reach out and to care about people in our communities. And when other people see that, that encourages them to say, I'd kind of like to be a part of that. I really see the value in that. And not just in the existing communities. Again, I can't express enough the importance of areas where there are no Ruritan clubs, no Ruritan clubs, nothing to do with Ruritan. We saw in Western North Carolina. I heard stories about FEMA, the delays, the limited amount of help that people got, and Ruritan Club stepped up big time and met the immediate needs of folks in those devastated areas. Hurricane Helene was just miserable, and we need to be there for people. That's what we're called to do. That is our goal in life, and if we do that, I think that God will say, "Well done, my good and faithful servant," when it's all said and done.
Well said. David, do you have anything you'd like to add with that, or?
Well, yeah. John's club is giving a Kentucky Derby lay to every member who brings in a new member. So that's been quite an incentive.
He's making that up.
I was thinking of horses. Well, let's see here. I have one last question. What is one piece of advice you'd like to give someone as they begin to write a district growth plan?
Yeah, there's a couple I would come up with. One is make it your own. Take a look at your district. What's it look like? Could you grow with outside the district? Do you want to grow in the district? But make it your own plan. You're welcome to see a highest plan, but don't copy that. Make it your own. There may be components you want to use, which is fine, but be able to step back at it and feel good about your plan, that you think it fits your district. I just think that's really, really important. And the second thing I would say is get started. And if your initial plan is half a page, at least you got to start to work with. But I would get started. I wouldn't get hamstrung with, oh, well, do I have to have this or that? How do you think, and how does your cabinet think you'll grow your district, and document that? And I think that's the way you'll be most successful.
Great.
I would add to that, Jeff, that don't be discouraged. Normally, if we're trying to make for lack of a better term, a sale on gaining new members or starting new clubs, don't get discouraged along the way. 3 to 10% statistics show that that's all the positive results that you're going to get. Stay the course. If it's not working, then we need to look again. We need to say, do I have a good plan? We have to ask why. Why is it not successful? Do we have a good plan? Are we over prepared? Are we under prepared? Are we not talking to people one on one? Because that is absolutely key. For those of you who have tried to recruit new members, years ago, I got all fired up and tried to start garnering new members. And I came up with 30. I sat down and made a list of 30 people in my communities that I thought would be excellent members in my Ruritan club. And I sent each one a letter. My big mistake. I learned big time from that. And we need to learn from our mistakes. I didn't talk to these people individually, one on one. The only entity that benefited from my 30 letters was the post office because of the stamps that I bought and sent to them. I heard from no one. So it's got to be a personal invitation. We need to be positive about what it is that we're trying to share. It's a great thing to get people involved to be of service to those in their community. No greater reward than I've been at this a long time. There's no greater reward than to know that you help somebody in their time of need. You're muted again, Jeff.
I think that's some great advice for two seasoned Ruritans, and thank you for that. So we've covered the heart of growing a growth plan, both new clubs and existing clubs. Following this session, we're going to send all of the attendees a template and a facilitator guide to create your own plan. So you won't have to create this from scratch. We've got you covered. Also, right now, I'd ask the audience if they could type something that they took away from our session here today, and we'll share that. I'll give you a couple minutes, and I'll look at that, and we'll go from there.
And while you're doing that, again, I wear this lei because we're galloping toward growth. Why? Because people need us.
All right, I see some folks talking about they like the idea of the incentives. It's a great idea. They like the face-to-face invitation. It's all great information. In-person communication.
And I will, Jeff, I'll add that our three committees, our growth, training, and communications committees are working toward helping to make this as simple as we can for everybody. We're trying to provide the information that will help everybody. The growth committee last year, Roger Davis, Jeff, and I had the honor to be able to write. That needs to be revisited again because obviously your first pass, again, like I said about the website, I thought that was a great idea. I still think it's a great idea, but I think there are better ways to do it. I think that the things that we shared in the playbook are really good, but there are some things that need to be added. Obviously, some of the incentive programs that we've seen developed over the past year are really important to be able to add to that, and we will be working on that going forward.
Great. Some other ideas or some comments that came up. They like the idea of bridging the gap between generations. I think that's a real important point as we see some clubs getting older and not bringing in younger members. So we got to bridge that gap. And obviously times change. Let's see what else we got here. Asking people to join. Sometimes that's That's all it takes, and being persistent.
That's how
All
I got
right.
my wife, Jeff. Jeff, that's how I
Pardon?
got my wife. I didn't use ice cream when I got my wife. I just had to wear her down. So asking and asking and asking, sometimes you can wear people down. Dave and we talked about Charlie Pierce, who was our governor for Ohio this year. We went to Southern Ohio for a cabinet meeting, and it was what was it, Dave? An hour and a half, a little over
Yeah.
100 miles down. And I told Charlie that he really needed to be thinking about moving up in the cabinet and consider being a lieutenant governor and a zone governor or a district governor. And he said, I'll think about it. And I said, you might want to think about it quick because I drove. And if you want to ride home, I need a commitment out of it. So that seemed to work because he is on his second trip as district governor. So sometimes a little extra encouragement is a good thing.
Don't be afraid of no's. Oh, they just keep popping up here. Anyway, are there any questions that is burning in anyone's mind right now that you'd like to ask our panel? Someone mentioned about publicity and write articles to editors about why Ruritan. I think that's a great idea. They have that section of the newspaper for those who still get it, but also those are online as well. It'd be a good place for it.
Yeah. Share beyond our boundaries. Again, our magazine is neat. We all love to see the articles that are in the magazines, but it's Ruritan members that are seeing those. So we need to get the word out, the pictures out, the events that we're doing, the help that we're doing to people who are non-Ruritan members.
Someone mentioned they're doing a club spotlight on their local AM radio station. These are great ideas. What we should do is try to capture these and share them. Maybe we can do something like that on our website. I don't know. We'll see how that works out. How often do we have these type of meetings? We're trying to get these more often where we can share information. We hope other board members will participate in their perspective realm of communication and training. So we'll see how that goes. All right. And one of the questions that we thought might come up is like, who should lead the effort for the district when it comes to writing a growth plan? And we thought the district governor and lieutenant governor, the lieutenant governor would have a couple years of experience and might have some broader experience with the district and have a better idea where to go. And with that, I might go ahead and close out. I want to give a huge thank you to Dave and John and to all of you who participated today. Thank you for what you do and keep up the great work. We are expecting to do this again. Let's grow Ruritan. Your growth plan template will hit your email box soon. So remember, if you need help, we're only a phone call away, a text away, or an email away.
Jeff,
And don't, yes, sir.
Roger. I couldn't type it, but nobody talked about we need to be a more diverse organization.
That is so true. We
And
need to be
I thought
diverse.
John did touch on that. Yeah. John did talk about that. That's true.
Okay. Did you catch that, Roger?
Yeah.
We definitely want a cross section of our community, and whatever diversity means, I mean, we need to cover all bases to make sure we are meeting the needs of our communities. So with that, don't forget, creating this plan is not difficult. Even a caveman can do it. So
I just want to say thank you all for being Ruritans. Thank you for making a difference in people's lives. You are game changers, and it's so important. And
Thank everybody.
Okay. Dave, anything for you, my friend?
Well, thank you, Jeff. You did a fine job putting up with John and I. And the hardest part's getting started. And I can't emphasize enough, this is a roadmap. Very few of us go from one point to another without guidance of some sort, and get started, and as I said, if it's only 3/4 of a page, that's 3/4 of a page you didn't have before. So I would encourage you to take your cabinet along and get started. Thank you.
Yeah. And someone asked the question, will they be notified of the next time we do this? My thought on that is yes, we will send information out about that. So as we go out there to find that spark plug, let's set the gap and get them rolling for growing Ruritan. Thank you all again.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for giving your time.
Thank you.